If you rely on Social Security, SSI, or SSDI, something subtle but important is happening right now, and it's catching a lot of seniors off guard. Over the past few days, I've been seeing a wave of comments and messages from people just like you. The check didn't stop, the money wasn't taken away, but something feels different. Some of you are saying your Social Security deposit showed up later than usual. Others saw it marked as pending longer. Some could see the money in their account, but couldn't access all of it right away. And a few are asking the same worried question: did Social Security change something? Here's the key thing I want you to hear right at the start. This is not a Social Security cut. This is not a benefit reduction. And this is not SSA taking money back. What's happening is quieter than that. And because it's quiet, it's causing confusion. What's changing is how banks are handling Social Security deposits after the money is sent. That difference matters more than most people realize, especially if you're on a fixed income and every dollar has a job the moment it arrives. Rent, utilities, groceries, prescriptions. There's no wiggle room when timing shifts, even by one day. If you want clear, calm explanations of changes like this without panic or rumors, take a second and subscribe to the channel. I focus on what's real, what's changing, and what you actually need to do. Nothing more, nothing less. Now let's break this down in plain language. Social Security is still sending payments on schedule. The SSA payment calendar has not changed. Wednesday payment groups are still Wednesday. SSI payments are still scheduled as announced. COLA adjustments, benefit amounts, and eligibility rules are all the same. But once Social Security releases the money, it enters the banking system. That's where the experience can suddenly feel different, even though the payment itself is right on time. Think of it like this. Social Security hands the envelope to the mail carrier, but your bank decides when you can open it. Over the last several months, many banks have quietly updated their internal policies. These aren't laws passed by Congress. These aren't SSA rules. These are bank-level decisions tied to fraud prevention, identity verification, and processing controls. And they affect government deposits more than most people expected. That's why two neighbors in the same city can have very different experiences. One person sees their deposit early in the morning like always. Another sees it later in the day. Someone else sees it pending overnight. Same Social Security payment, different bank handling. And here's why this feels so alarming for seniors and disability recipients. When you live paycheck to paycheck, timing is everything. A delay of even 12 hours can cause overdrafts, missed payments, or stress that you simply don't need. I've heard from retirees who scheduled their rent to pull automatically the same morning their Social Security usually hits. This time the deposit showed up, but the available balance didn't update in time. The rent pulled first, overdraft fee, panic, all because of a timing issue that wasn't explained. I've also heard from SSI recipients who rely on early deposit features from their bank. They were used to seeing their money 1 or 2 days early. This month the deposit still arrived, just not early. That doesn't mean something is wrong. It means early access is a bank feature, not a guarantee. And this is where a lot of misinformation starts spreading. No, Social Security is not holding your money. No, benefits are not being reviewed or frozen. No, this is not a clawback or audit. And no, you did not do anything wrong just because a deposit took longer to clear. What's happening is a growing gap between when SSA sends the money and when banks release full access to it. Banks are tightening their review windows. Some are adding extra screening for government deposits. Others are flagging accounts that recently changed addresses, added a joint holder, or had unusual activity, even if it was harmless. For example, if you recently updated your direct deposit information, changed banks, or added overdraft protection, your account might receive extra scrutiny. The money still arrives. It just doesn't always become available instantly. And here's something most people don't realize. Posted does not always mean available. Those are two different things. You might see the deposit listed in your account, but the bank can still place a temporary hold before you can withdraw or transfer it. This is why calling Social Security right away often leads nowhere. SSA already sent the money. From their perspective, the payment is complete. The delay is happening after that, inside the bank. The worst thing you can do right now is panic and start moving accounts, opening new banks, or transferring funds quickly. That can actually trigger more delays, not fewer. What you need first is clarity. You need to understand what's happening, why it's happening, and how to protect yourself from short-term disruptions without assuming the worst. And there's another reason this matters more than just this month's deposit. These banking policy changes could affect future payments too. COLA increases, back payments, retroactive SSDI awards, even one-time relief payments, if they happen, could be subject to the same processing rules. That's why understanding this now puts you ahead of the curve. Now let's talk about what actually changed at banks, because this is where most of the confusion starts, and where rumours usually take over if no one explains it clearly. When people hear the phrase, new bank policies, it sounds vague and scary. It makes it feel like something official happened overnight. But in reality, this wasn't one big announcement or a single rule that every bank adopted at the same time. What happened was more gradual, and that's why so many people were caught off guard. Banks across the country have been updating how they process electronic deposits, especially government payments that move through the ACH system. That includes Social Security, SSI, SSDI, VA benefits, and other federal payments. These updates are mostly tied to fraud prevention and compliance rules, not to Social Security itself. Here's the simple version of how your deposit normally works. Social Security sends your payment electronically on the scheduled date. That part hasn't changed. Once it leaves the Treasury, it enters the ACH system. That's the electronic highway banks use to move money back and forth. From there, your bank receives notice of the deposit and decides when to make it available to you. That last step is where banks have more control than most people realize. Some banks used to release government deposits almost immediately. Others even advertised early access, sometimes 1 or 2 days before the official payment date. But early access was always a bank perk, not a promise from Social Security. And many banks are now being more cautious about how and when they release funds. One major change is longer review windows. Banks are taking more time to confirm the deposit details before making the money fully available. This doesn't mean they think you did something wrong. It means their systems are scanning for patterns that don't match their updated risk models. Another change is stricter identity and account verification. If anything about your account has changed recently, your address, your phone number, a joint account holder, even how often you log in, the system may flag the deposit for a short review. Again, the money is there. It's just not released instantly. Some banks have also adjusted their hold thresholds. In the past, a regular monthly Social Security deposit might pass through automatically because it looked familiar. Now, even familiar deposits are sometimes reviewed, especially if the amount changed due to a COLA adjustment or a recalculation. Let me give you a realistic example. Imagine a retiree who normally receives their Social Security deposit early Wednesday morning. This month, the deposit shows up Wednesday afternoon instead. Nothing was missed, nothing was reduced. But that timing shift alone can throw off automatic bill payments, especially if rent, utilities, or insurance premiums are scheduled for the same day. Another example involves SSDI back payments. These are often larger amounts. When a bank sees a deposit that's much higher than your usual monthly amount, their system may automatically pause it for review. That doesn't mean the money is in danger. It means the bank wants to verify the source and the account before releasing it. Online-only banks and prepaid card accounts are another area where people are seeing differences. These institutions often rely heavily on automated systems. When those systems are updated, changes can feel sudden. A deposit that used to clear at 3 a.m. might now clear at noon. That's not Social Security changing. That's the bank's internal clock and controls shifting. And here's something important that doesn't get said enough. Not all banks updated their systems at the same time, and not all of them updated them the same way. That's why your experience may be completely different from someone else's, even if you both receive the same type of benefit. This is also why calling Social Security often leads to frustration. SSA can see that your payment was sent. From their side, the transaction is complete. The delay, if there is one, happens after that point. That's why the bank is usually the right place to ask questions, but only after you understand what to ask. Another thing that's confusing people is the difference between deposit date and availability date. Your account may show the deposit on one date, but the funds might not be fully available until later that day or even the next business day. This is especially common when a payment lands near a weekend or holiday. And let's clear up one more rumour. There is no new federal rule that allows banks to take your Social Security money or delay it indefinitely. Federal protections for Social Security benefits are still in place. Banks cannot seize your benefits for debts in most cases, and they cannot simply keep your money without reason. What they can do is apply temporary holds for verification. And while that's frustrating, it's usually short term. For most people experiencing this, the delay is measured in hours, not weeks. But those hours matter when you're budgeting down to the dollar. This is why awareness is so important right now. If you know that timing may shift slightly, you can plan around it instead of being blindsided. You can avoid overdrafts, avoid panic calls, and avoid making changes that cause bigger problems later. Now that you understand what changed at banks and why this is happening, the next important question is who is most affected and what you should be watching for, so a small delay doesn't turn into a bigger financial problem. Not everyone will notice a difference. Some people will see their deposits arrive exactly as they always have, but certain groups are more likely to experience timing issues or temporary holds, especially right now. First, SSI recipients. SSI payments are often the most time-sensitive because they usually arrive right at the start of the month. Many SSI recipients schedule rent, utilities, and other essential bills to come out immediately. When a bank delays availability even briefly, it can create instant stress. SSI deposits are also more likely to be flagged if the account has any recent changes, because the amounts are often smaller and tightly monitored. Next, SSDI recipients who receive back payments or adjustments. These deposits can be much larger than a normal monthly benefit. When a bank sees a deposit that suddenly jumps from, for example, $1,400 to $8,000 or $12,000, the system often pauses it automatically. That pause is not a rejection, it's a review. The problem is that no one explains that part clearly, so people assume something is wrong. Another group seeing more impact is seniors using online-only banks or prepaid debit cards. These accounts often rely entirely on automated processing. When fraud prevention rules tighten, the system doesn't know your story. It only sees patterns. A deposit that used to clear at midnight may now clear later in the morning or the next business day. Again, same money, different timing. Joint accounts can also trigger delays. If you share an account with a spouse, caregiver, or adult child, and anything about that relationship recently changed, the bank may take extra time to verify the deposit. This happens more often than people realize, especially after a name update, a beneficiary change, or a power of attorney addition. Even small things can matter. Updating your address, changing your phone number, logging in from a new device. These are normal actions, but when combined with a government deposit, they sometimes prompt a short review. Now let's talk about what you should actually watch for, because this is where people either stay calm or panic unnecessarily. The first thing to check is whether the deposit is posted or just pending. Posted means the bank has received it. Pending means it's still processing. Many people stop here and assume the worst, but the next step is more important. Look at the available balance, not just the posted transaction. Posted does not always mean available. This distinction matters more now than ever. If the money is posted but not available, it usually means the bank is completing its review. If your deposit has not shown up at all by the end of the scheduled day, then it's reasonable to start asking questions. But timing matters. A deposit that usually arrives at 3 a.m. but shows up at 2 p.m. is still on time. It just feels late because your routine was disrupted. Here's what you should not do right away. Do not immediately change banks. Do not open multiple new accounts. Do not transfer funds rapidly between accounts. And do not assume Social Security made a mistake before checking with your bank. Those actions can actually create more red flags and slow things down further. Instead, here's what you should do. If the deposit is posted but not available, wait until the end of the business day. Many holds resolve automatically within a few hours. If it's still unavailable the next day, then call your bank and ask a specific question. Ask whether the deposit is under routine verification and when full access is expected. If the deposit does not appear at all after the scheduled payment date has fully passed, then it makes sense to check with Social Security to confirm it was sent. Most of the time, SSA can confirm the release date quickly. Now let's talk about budgeting, because this is where a little planning can prevent a lot of stress. If your bills are scheduled for the same day, your benefits usually arrive. Consider moving them back by 1 or 2 days if possible. Even a small buffer can protect you from overdraft fees. Set up deposit alerts instead of assuming availability. Alerts tell you when the money arrives, but they don't always mean it's ready to spend. Checking the available balance first can save you trouble. If you receive SSI or SSDI and rely on early deposit features, it's important to understand that early access can change at any time. It's not guaranteed, even if it worked the same way for years. This is also a good time to make sure your account information is up to date and accurate. Matching names, correct addresses, and current contact information reduce the chances of a deposit being flagged. And here's the reassurance I want to leave you with before we move forward. For most people experiencing these issues, the delay is temporary. We're talking hours or a day, not lost money. The system is adjusting, and banks are being cautious, sometimes overly cautious, but your benefits are still protected. Let's step back and look at the bigger picture, because once you understand where this is headed, a lot of the worry fades away. What you're seeing right now is part of a broader shift in how money moves in the banking system. As more payments go digital and fraud becomes more sophisticated, banks are tightening their controls. That affects government deposits just like any other large recurring payment. It's not about taking money away. It's about slowing access slightly while systems double-check the details. This means future payments may feel a little different too. COLA increases can trigger extra review because the deposit amount changes. Retroactive SSDI payments often receive extra scrutiny because they're larger than normal monthly benefits. Even state-level relief programs, or one-time payments if they happen, would likely move through the same banking checks. What is not changing is just as important to remember. Social Security payment schedules are still in place. Eligibility rules are still the same. Your monthly benefit amount is not being reduced because of bank policies, and Social Security is not cancelling or delaying payments on purpose. The key takeaway is this. This is about timing and access, not loss. When you plan for that reality, you stay ahead of it, giving yourself a small buffer between deposit days and bill payments. checking available balances before spending, asking the right questions if something looks off. These simple habits protect your peace of mind. You earned these benefits. They are part of your financial foundation. Understanding how banks handle deposits today helps you protect that foundation tomorrow. If you've noticed any changes in your deposit timing, share your city or state in the comments and let others know what you're seeing. If you have questions or concerns, post them there as well. Chances are someone else is experiencing the same thing. The goal here isn't fear, it's clarity. And when you have clarity, you have control.